So guys, just like we said in Beekeeper Buzz for January in the Southeast, what we did is we went ahead and we took care of our bee yard while we didn't have a lot of bee maintenance to do. So we laid down a nice thick tarp, we covered it in some landscaping gravel, then we set up a fence and a gate just to kind of let people know this is a bee yard and kind of just to deter bigger animals from getting in here. So then also what we ended up doing is we ended up setting up some blocks for our hives. So what we did is we got our hives up on some cinder blocks and some 4x4s. And this go around we're going to start with 5 hives, and we're going to show you the progression from February on in through to December. So come with us as we feed, we treat, we inspect, we deal with issues along the way. These first 4 hives, what we're going to do is we're going to inspect these on a regular basis. We're talking every week and a half to 2 weeks. We'll get that video out to you at the end of every month, coming with the Beekeeper Buzz for that month. So these 4 hives are going to be the ones that we're going to be inspecting, we're going to be feeding, we're going to be treating when needed. And then number 5, what we're going to do is kind of a unique thing. We're going to have it tucked away in the corner over here. We will still do hive inspections on this hive, but what we're not going to do is anything. We're not going to treat, we're not going to feed, we're not going to add pollen substitutes. The only thing that we plan on doing with this hive is just inspecting and then adding boxes as needed. So as those bees continue to grow, if they continue to grow, we will add those boxes on there, just giving them a little bit more room. But that way we can see the difference between 4 hives that we'll inspect regularly and maintain just like a beekeeper should. And then we're going to see with hive number 5 what happens to a neglected hive, something that just gets bees thrown in it and then tossed out to the side, and just kind of see what happens. So a couple things that I want to show you for this video is I want to show you a couple things that we keep in our bee yard here at Mann Lake, Florida location. The handiest thing that I found is a 5-gallon pail with a lid. Keep this in your bee yard because as you're doing maintenance on your hive, those bees will be building comb on the lids and on the top of the frame sometimes. And anytime that you're going to scrape that, and instead of throwing it out into the yard, you got a 5-gallon bucket here that you can toss it in, and then hopefully by the end of the season we'll have a pretty good quantity of wax in here, and then we'll kind of show you the rendering process all from the hives that we'll maintain this year. The next thing that we're looking for is a hive tool. I always keep one in the yard, so either laying on top of the hive, laying on top of a cinder block, or on a hook on the post. So we'll always have one of these in the yard, so that way when you walk out here and you're reaching around in your pockets and you're like, I forgot my hive tool, whether it be in the car or back in the building, you'll always have one out here ready to go. Other than that, everything else we keep right here in our building, so we're not short on supplies, kind of a luxury that we have here. But stay tuned, we're going to go ahead and get our 5 nukes transplanted into these 10-frame hives. We got it set up with a 1-gallon feeder in there, so we'll do 9 frames with a 1-gallon feeder, just so that way we can give them a little bit of supplement going into this early part of the spring or the late part of the winter. All right, everyone, so we're here in our bee yard and we're starting with hive number 1, all right? So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna start transplanting these nukes into our 10-frame box. We're currently at the very tail end of January, getting ready for the beekeeping season. So our anticipations for this season right now is to just grow our hives as best as possible and maintain a healthy and happy hive throughout the season, so we can see the results and what that looks like. So starting with hive number 1, we're going to go ahead and inspect this nuke as we're transplanting it into our 10-frame hive. All right, so we got nuke number 1 going into hive number 1. How we got it set up right now is we got 4 frames with a 1-frame feeder, which will hold a gallon of feed. And then we're going to transplant our 5-frame nuke into here. And what I'll do is I'll put all 5 of these frames right here in the middle, and then we'll get some feed in there. So as I'm going through these frames, I'm keeping an eye out for the queen, which while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and get our queen marking equipment out. So just in case we find her, we're not digging through our pockets then trying to find it. So this is all set, ready to go. And we'll start with frame number 1. So still got an empty side. All right, so now I'm just going to skim these frames, see if I see anything out of the ordinary. Right now we got some capped honey. I see a little bit of pollen in there. And drone. All right, no queen on that frame. So we're gonna put her in there, nice and easy. Smoke these girls down so we can work without crushing too many of them. And again, same thing with this frame. Keep an eye out. We got some capped brood, capped honey, pollen, and then some nectar. And we kind of got a pale bee right here, which indicates that's a very young bee that probably just hatched. But not seeing any queen on this frame. And over here we got a lot of empty cells. Could be some brood that just hatched out. So again, capped honey, and just keeping an eye out for the queen. Now if we don't find her, that's okay, but as long as we're seeing signs that she's in there. So again, nice and easy, transplant that over to your 10 framer. Smoke these girls down so you got room to work. So again, just combing the frame, seeing if we can see the queen anywhere, and looking for any signs of either distress or signs of a queen. Like we have some eggs, we got some larvae right there. So it definitely looks like she's been on this frame recently. So we're definitely seeing signs of a queen. And again, we'll flip it over. Same thing here. Comb through, looking for the queen. Reading the frames, capped honey, capped brood. Got some larvae, see some eggs down in there. So definitely signs that she's here. So I'm not worried about too much right now because all the indicators are showing signs of a healthy hive. Down to our last 2 frames in this nuke. So see that good brood pattern right there. So she's definitely laying for sure. Just seeing if we can see her anywhere. And until you have her marked, it's definitely a skill to find her. I always compare it to a good game of Where's Waldo, because all of them almost look the same, except for that big abdomen on that queen. So I don't see her on this frame, but I'm definitely seeing, oh, yep, there she is. She stuck her nose up. She's right here. So we found her. Take our queen marker, don't lose her. Oh, nope, I found her again. So what I do is I just kind of lay the frame gently, put that over her. I just kind of blow on it, get all the mother bees out of my way, push this down just enough to keep her from moving. And what I'll do is I'll just paint that bald spot on the back of her head, set it like that, let her dry, give her a couple seconds. And now she has that big green dot on her, which will make it a little bit easier for us to find her in the future. All right, so this is hive number 1. And now that we know that she's on that frame, we want to be extra cautious when we're putting that in, and then when we're providing room. So because she is on that frame, what I'll do is I'll just slide this empty one over, make us room there for our last frame that we need to put in, and that way I don't have to worry about accidentally rolling her when I slide in this other frame. So again, nice drawn out comb and some brood pattern, capped honey. So hive number 1 is complete, and with these feeders in here, you kind of got to work a little extra room. They are a little snug, which I think our plan is to just keep this in here until we start getting a flow of our own. So now that I got my 5 frames transferred into here, I have some extra bees in here. Now these Jester nuke boxes tend to hold water in this corrugated plastic right here. So if you tip these over and try to dump them into the hive, a lot of times you'll get a lot of water that comes out of there. So that's definitely something to keep in mind with these nuke boxes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna prop this open right here on the outside of the hive, and I'll get our lid in here, and then we'll come back and we'll add a little bit of feed and patties in about a week or so. There's hive hive number 1. Okay, so on these hives, usually what I do is when I transplant a nuke into a 10-frame hive, because they have all that extra room now to build out and to move around, I always take a hive entrance reducer and I put on the smallest setting. And what that does is that just gives them a little less area that they have to focus on when protecting that hive. So just keep that in mind. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna move over to hive number 2. All right, so when you get a nuke like this or a hive like this is kind of why having a 5-gallon bucket around is kind of good, is because we have all this comb that they built on top of these frames, which definitely is indicating that it's a strong hive and it definitely needs to be transplanted into a box, a larger hive. So we got our 5-gallon bucket. So what we'll do is we'll smoke these girls down, get them off the comb as best as possible. Then what we'll do is we'll do a little hive maintenance, scrape all this up, get it into our bucket, and that will kind of start our wax collection for the year. So right now we're just going to smoke these girls. So we're just going to smoke these girls down best as possible to get them off that comb. We're going to do easy, just take the flat side of your hive tool. Now again, you got to smoke them as best as possible, but what we'll do is we'll leave this cap open because we're not expecting any kind of rain. So we'll have the bees help us out and clean up this comb for us. And again, we'll process this hopefully at the end of the season if we have enough. Try to smoke as many off there as you can, just because it is a nuke and we don't want to kill off too much of the population this early on in the season. All right, so we're kind of clean off as best as possible. We'll leave this off to the side with the lid open so those bees can kind of get back out. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start getting these girls transferred over. Start with frame number 1, breaking them loose. Remember, we don't know where our queen is at right now, okay? She could be anywhere in this nuke. So being as smooth and careful as possible is definitely going to be your best bet, okay? And you can tell the bees kind of got honey all over them from when I was scraping all that off. But we've got a full frame of capped honey here. We do got an empty side here. Nothing that rings any alarms or anything. So everything looks good there. Put that to the outside and moving on to the next frame. All right, so we got capped brood. We got honey in this hive for sure. And we got some pollen that they brought in. Looking, I don't see any queen on this frame. But always keep in mind where your queen is at. Now we are seeing, look at that, fresh eggs all along the outside, larvae all along there, and then capped brood all along there. So we definitely know our queen is in here somewhere. Now again, can we find her is the real question, but not seeing her on that frame. That's all right. Okay, again, smoke them down so that way you can work without killing too much bees. Make this as stressless as possible for them. And again, capped brood. We got some drone brood here. Nothing to be too alarmed about. Just starting to be that time of the season. And that's why if you haven't thought about splits right now, it might be nice to kind of start putting that more towards the front of your brain, because spring is right around the corner, and usually when spring comes, the bees are kind of in full force. So I'm seeing eggs, I'm seeing larvae, I'm seeing capped brood and pollen, so that's good. So our queen is in here still. Haven't found her. And as you saw in hive number 1, sometimes they can just pop out of nowhere. And one minute they're not on the frame, and the next minute there they are. And we pull it out. Drone brood, capped brood. Don't see any queen on there. But look at all that lovely brood right there. She is definitely working. Definitely working. All right, so we still have not found our queen yet. We haven't put eyes on her. But again, the signs are all pointing to she is in there, and this is a healthy hive. So we're not seeing anything worth throwing any flags up about. And then a whole nother frame of capped honey. So that's full. So these are the resources that you're looking for when you're checking those hives. Whether Your temperatures are still below the 60, 55 degrees. If you're able to get a warm day, you can crack it open. These are the resources you want to look at. You want to see nectar, you want to see pollen, you want to see honey. But really the main thing is you want to see honey, because that's what those adult bees are going to be eating. As we start getting closer to the springtime, you want to start seeing pollen or introducing a pollen substitute, so that way that queen is getting all the signals that spring is coming, and to kind of ramp back up on brood production. So again, we have all those bees in there. As you can tell, we've got quite a bit of bees left on the nuke. So again, with that water, you can see it kind of dripping out of the nuke just from being outside in the weather and the elements. We're just going to again tilt this up, and we'll leave these here for, I don't know, a day or so. Today's Saturday, so we'll just leave it here until the weekend's over, and all those bees should find their way back to their hive. And I'm just going to tilt it up like that because it's not really cooperating. Again, let's smoke these girls down. All right, so here we are, hive number 3. And again, same setup, 9 frames, 1 gallon feeder. So I just smoke them down so that way they're not on the top bars, and I don't have to worry about crushing more than needed, but hopefully none at all. So again, take the time to break that propolis seal on all the frames. We got a little bit of moving. And then again, for the new beekeepers, always keep in mind, we do not know where the queen is. So slow and steady wins the race. All right, so this colony, what I'm seeing is capped honey. I'm seeing nectar, so they're bringing it in from somewhere, and I'm seeing pollen. And these hives have been out here, these nukes have been on our property since, I would say probably about a month. So we haven't fed pollen or feed to them, so they're getting it from somewhere. And then again, just drawn out comb on one side. So we'll start there. All right, so a lot of drone brood on here, a lot. So to me, what this is indicating, or could indicate, is that we could have a laying worker situation on our hands, or maybe even an unmated queen. So this is just 1 of 5. So definitely something to keep an eye out for. So again, we got pollen, we got nectar or capped honey, and then we got more drone brood. So those are definitely not good signs that we're seeing so far on this frame. That's a red flag that we want to throw up, and then we want to make that be a sign that we need to pay extra close attention to these frames. So again, look, we got a queen cell, and that does have something in there. If you can see that. But capped drone, pollen, nectar, so they definitely have resources, but we're definitely either looking at an unfertilized queen or a laying worker. Now, a big sign of the laying worker would be multiple eggs in one cell. Not just one, but multiple cells. So if you see one cell with multiple eggs in it, that might not be a flag that needs to be raised. However, if you start inspecting and you're starting to see multiple cells with multiple eggs in there, especially coupled with drone brood, definitely could be a sign. So make sure you leave a comment in this video section below. Let me know what you're thinking about these frames, and maybe let's give some insight on how we would fix this going forward. Because obviously we don't want to trash the whole hive just because we have a laying worker situation or a unmated queen. Now you can tell that we have hive beetles pretty bad, especially on this one frame right here. So definitely something we want to address. Again, we could treat the ground around us, diatomaceous earth, permethrin, or we could put them beetle jails inside our hives, which that's the route that we're going to end up going, is put some beetle jails in there with some bait, some beetle oil. So that's this hive. We're definitely going to need to get a queen for it. So what we'll do is we'll reach out to some queen breeders around us and see if maybe they got a queen they can spare for us. All right, but as you can tell, it starts to get a little hard to get these frames in. But again, this is just the ear pieces right here. It's not like I was squeezing comb together, so keep that in mind. If your comb is getting kind of messed up as you're pushing it in there, definitely a sign you might want to either take out a frame, switch a feeder out, something like that, but that will come later. So hive number 3, we're thinking either a laying worker situation or a unmated queen. I did not see any I didn't see any queen in there, but that's not saying that she's not in there. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think going on with hive number 3. Let's get your input, and then the next video will kind of show what we're going to do to treat this. So hive beetles and possibly a laying worker unmated queen situation. All right, so identified a problem there with nuke number 3, hive number 3, and then what we're going to do is same thing. We'll put this box aside, let those bees kind of drift out, and then we'll come collect those. Now hive number 4 got a lot of weight to it, so to me that indicates that it's probably some good honey stores in there. And again, same setup, 4 and a 1 gallon feeder. And then we'll put these frames right here in the middle. And again, so this nuke definitely putting the work in. And same thing we did with hive number 2 is we want to smoke these ladies down, get them off this comb, so that way we can do a little maintenance and collect some wax for our end of the year. All right, and then we'll smoke these girls down so that we can start our hive inspection. So again, breaking that propolis seal, you can kind of hear it crunch apart. And doing this is just a personal preference. You can do it one by one. You can just go through and crack them all at once. The only thing you want to keep in mind is you just don't know where your queen is, so you just want to be as careful as possible. All right, so nice frame of honey right here. It's definitely got some weight to it. And then again on this side, capped honey, and we got some pollen sprinkled in as well. So they're bringing in nectar from somewhere. Either that or that winter just didn't have them eat through all their stores. All right, so on this, we're seeing some brood pattern now, right? You see how they're not all raised out like an Audi belly button? So this is worker brood, as opposed to the raised up brood that we were seeing in hive number 3, which was your drone brood. In here I am seeing eggs and capped brood and honey. No pollen on this frame, but we did have some on the other frame. And then look at this brood pattern. That's what we want to see. So that looks good, and not seeing any queen. And again, nice brood pattern, capped honey, no queen. And to keep track of this, what I would do is you have a recording app on your phone, and nowadays they're very sophisticated. After recording, they can put it into text, they can summarize. So those recording apps come in very handy. So if you're not recording on video and you kind of got honey and wax all over your hands to sit here and write in a notebook, so maybe a recording app might be a good idea, so that way at the end of your hive inspection you can just go in, have it put everything into text for you and then summarize, and you can kind of make your notes off of that. For us, we're recording in video, so not really a necessity, and then you guys on YouTube can kind of follow along hive by hive and see the progression throughout the season. So again, a full frame of honey, got some capped brood, got some hive beetles running around. So because we're here in Central Florida, hive beetles are definitely going to be a #1 enemy that we have, along with those varroa mites. So not only will we be treating for varroa mites as we get on to the season, we'll definitely be combating hive beetles all season long. They just don't go away when you're in Florida, so it's just something you got to manage. Now this one, I've only seen a handful, so it's not horrible. Not like Hive 3 with all those hive beetles and an unknown queen situation. So I don't see any queens on this. No queen on this frame, but we did see some good indicators that she is in there. And full frame of honey. Not seeing any queen here. Oh, yes I am. There she is. We found her. So, kind of tell, sometimes she can just appear out of nowhere, you know? Yeah, I think, but we got her in there. I just like to blow on them and get those worker bees kind of out of the way. And then what I do is I just nice and snug pinch her down. Don't want to squish her. And we're just going to paint her green. Lift it up, let her dry for a little bit, couple seconds. So now that we know that she's on this frame, what I would like to do is I would like to scoot one of these over so that way we're not worried about rubbing her against other comb and rolling her. So we don't want that to happen. So now that we got her free, there she goes running away. Get this frame in there. So kind of having difficult with this frame. So squeeze her over like that, and then this frame I'm not worried about at all because, all right, so that's hive number 4. We got some wax out of it. We found the queen, we marked her. So that's 2 of our 4 queens marked on these hives. Again, bees in the box, just tilt that box and let them find their way back to their hive. All right, so those are our 4 hives that we're gonna regularly inspect and maintain. We're gonna move over to hive number 5. We'll put this nuke inside there. And then this will be the hive that we're just gonna let nature take its course and see what happens. So let's move on over there. Hive number 5. And again, this is just gonna be 5 frames, and no feeder. We don't plan on doing anything with this hive other than just letting nature do its thing. So again, I always like to put my frames in the middle and smoke these ladies so that way, what are y'all doing over here? So this one got some eggs and larvae, not really drawn out. Definitely hive beetles, pollen, nectar, and they're still building. So this nuke is definitely a little on the lighter side, but they still got some resources. They still got capped brood. I'm seeing nectar, so they're bringing in something. And again, I'm seeing eggs. I'm seeing capped brood. I'm seeing capped honey. I'm seeing larvae. I'm seeing nectar. I'm seeing pollen. So all good signs that the queen is here and that this is a healthy hive. Just a little skimpy. So, and again, capped brood, pollen, nectar, honey. I see an egg down there in that cell, but this one definitely is a lot emptier than the other nukes. And then always get your spacing back right. And again, get your box over here. Just tilt that. All right, YouTube, so that concludes our very first hive inspection with our 5 hives. So out of the 5, we had 3 that were very strong. We saw all great signs, no flags, everything was looking good. 2 hives, we have some issues with. Hive number 3, we have a queen situation going on there. Is it a laying worker? Is it a unmated queen? That we need to look into. Do a little research, contact some breeders around us and see if maybe we can find us a queen right here at the beginning of February. So it's asking a lot, but maybe it's possible. Hive number 5, the hive that we're just gonna leave alone, that one showed all good signs. It was just a little bit on the weaker side. So not all those frames were drawn out, not all those frames were covered with comb. But we did see brood, we did see eggs, we saw pollen, we saw nectar, we saw capped honey. So everything is looking good with it. It's just a little bit on the lighter side. So just with these 5 nukes, all of them been kept in the same area. all from the same breeder. You can see the difference between hive number 1 all the way through hive number 5. So when we say it's always recommended to start out with 2 hives, that's kind of the reason, because they can be drastically different. They can perform drastically different. And then if you have one that's kind of on the lighter or on the slacking side, you can always take from your stronger hive to help either jumpstart that or just call it quits with that second hive and merge it into that stronger hive. So with these 5, you can definitely see the difference, and I look forward to the future of this beekeeping season and showing you the progress of these 5 hives. Hopefully you guys will leave comments down below, reach out to us, let us know what you think's going on with hive number 3. What do you think is going on with hive number 5? What are some fixes for them? Beekeeping is a great community where we can all kind of come together and learn, and this is no exception. So make sure you hit that like button on there, make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave a comment down below, so that way we can engage a little bit. Again, my name's Joshua, Mann Lake in the Florida location, and hope to see you soon.